You're listening to From a Certain Point of View, the only Star Wars podcast that was not consulted by Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, or any of the fine folks at Lucasfilm. But honestly, I think it's their loss because we're coming in hot. There's a president they're looking to hire, and we're the White Knights, the ones what do they call that? Where you're the unsung hero, right? Like they don't see us coming, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
right?
I'm just gonna let you keep going.
Well, you think? I mean, the new thing right now is you hire two people, right? You've got the two people that are running DC, and you kind of have Filoni, and we've coined the term Favloni. So if you hear us talk about it, that's one of our famous terms that other people I think are using it.
Infamous.
Yeah. So I think we need a Benifer name for us.
Jay and Matt, Jat.
Yeah, Jat. Well, usually they go with blast names, but let's start first.
Good to see you, Jay. I was going to ask you, how was your trip to California?
Oh, dude, it was good. I didn't get to, I was in LA and I experienced the LA traffic because the second day we were there, we kind of did a split thing. My girlfriend was doing a conference and I was hoping to go out to Hollywood, but they're not kidding when they say it takes you 3 hours to get anywhere. Mm-hmm. So by the time I picked up the car I was going to go to see the Hollywood sign, kind of hit some marks while she was doing her thing. I had enough time to get back to the hotel to pick her up and go. We planned our second half of the trip to go to Joshua Tree. So I didn't get to do any of that stuff. So I told her, I said, we're going back. Damn it. I want to see. So I was going to go to Scum and Villainy. I think it was at first a pop-up bar, but it's been around for 3 years. So I don't, or maybe longer. So you can't call it a pop-up bar. But we went to Joshua Tree, had a great time. We went hiking around. We did over 10 miles one day, climbing fucking mountains and rocks and shit, and my feet still hurt, and I've been home a day and a half now. So
are there ever moments you regret your relationship because you're dating a woman who likes to hike a lot?
We talked about that because and she's she asked me, and I said, you know what, had I not ever dated you, I don't think it would be something I probably never would have done, but it wouldn't be something that I would have pursued. And I enjoy it. I like it. We keep talking about retiring and that's going to be our thing, is going to, the road life, getting one of those vans or an RV and hiking all over. So I do enjoy it. But yeah, she lives for it. She loves it.
She's done some cool ones. And Joshua Tree looks cool. I've driven past it, but never actually gone in and experienced the park. It looks pretty sweet. But you did not make it to Disneyland then?
No. When there wasn't any time. Even though I wasn't doing a conference or anything, I was the one I was running around, trying to get the car and do other things or just kill 2 hours before she was available again. So there wasn't really enough time for me to go out and do all of that. But I want to go back and do it. I want it better weather. I mean, we left here and it was still in the 30s here in Michigan, and we hit California and it was almost 70. So I'm not complaining about the weather, but when you're going out to California, you want California weather.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be real interested to hear what your thoughts are on Disneyland versus Disney World, because we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And just to see what you think of the vibe overall and how different it is from the Disney World experience. I want to apologize again to our listeners for our delay in getting our Star Wars Podcast Day episode out.
I don't.
Special thanks to Christina for being the voice of Mon Mothma. I thought she did a great job. Huge thanks to you, Jay, for your flawless narration.
Oh, man. You loved it. Oh, you know what? I started listening to it, and I listened probably over half of it, but I just remembered you put in the bloopers at the end, which, I was there for it, so I don't know if I need to experience it again, but I'm sure it's funny to listen to. I always, did you laugh? I laughed listening to Grant lose his mind, and I didn't really lose my mind, but there was some frustration.
It's great because it's really the first 10 minutes most of the outtakes are from. You start to kind of figure it out as you go. You still have some blips, but it's that first 10 minutes you're just struggling.
Well, it was like becoming a podcaster all over again. I'm God damn, I've been on a mic for 16 years, and it's I'm in this room by myself, and I'm reading something, and I turn into a fucking idiot. So then I'm what is wrong with me? And then you get in your own fucking head, and then you're you even said something about I would say an alien name or something different, and it was just it was so fucking irritating. And then listening to it with the music and the sound, and you edit it, and you hearing Christina and the fucking great voice that was picked for Jax. I listen to the narration and I'm I think you have to hear yourself do it that way to be this is how I would add some,
Umph.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was reading it like I just learned how to read.
I find that whenever I do it, I listen back and I'm like, what? You sound so like, are you awake? Like get after it, man.
Yep.
So I there's something about narration. It's definitely a skill set that I don't possess. And so, and in reference to the Jack's voice, yeah. In retrospect, maybe I should have just taken a shot at it and done it. But I thought, well, at least this voice is way different. But man, there's certain things that are the tone is so wrong.
Right.
and there's certain words I just couldn't make him say. Like you try to phonetically like it's a person. You try to phonetically spell it out to kind of manipulate the way the sounds are going to come back. Sometimes it would sort of work. Like I sort of made Corellian work, but like Alderaanian, no. Right. He couldn't say pod racing. It didn't matter how I put it in. It was pod racing or pod racing, or I mean, it was fucking wrong every time. But I don't know. And his tone never really matched Ma. It was comedy.
Yeah, you should have done, like, like when they'll do commercials sometimes, and it'll be like this static voice, and then they'll insert like a completely different voice for inflection.
Yeah,
you should have done that. Like the words that didn't work, you just hear your own voice pop in and do it. I mean, it was bad enough anyways.
Trust me, I thought about it. I almost did with the pod racing thing. I almost just went, pod racing. God damn it.
Say it right.
You can't get this right at all, man. And then other things he would say, I'm like, that's pretty good, Right. But it was just a mixed bag of those over and over and over again. You kind of have to use those voices sparingly. Like maybe just for a couple lines, 2 or 3 lines, that's it. To do a full dialogue is it's so difficult. And
so the one that you used, you just like copied and pasted the dialogue from the story into, and the voice would read it.
I sort of cheated the system because there's ways with different AI tools you can use where you have to sign up and you get all the stuff with it.
Right.
But they let you test everything out. So I just recorded it through the board when I would test it. So I just went through line, but you could only do like, I don't know, 100 to 150 characters or something like that. So you'd have to do like 2 sentences at a time. You couldn't do it all in one shot. So I'd go through the dialogue and I'd paste in whatever you had and I'd record that bit. So my Audacity, which is what I used to edit, had all these different cues of all this different stuff that I was putting together. So to put it all together, then it all crashed. And I was like,
that's right. You wrote me.
I was going to fucking throw it out the window. I was so pissed off. And finally in the end, I had to like restore it, combine it all, copy it into a new file, and it kind of got it to work. But it was just, there was a point where I was like, there's no episode. We're done. We're done here.
Well, yeah, because when you start adding, I learned that when I was doing one of the radio plays years ago, when you start adding like different lines of audio, the more you do, like that's processing all of that, and it starts to kill your computer.
It does. You almost have to do it in chunks. Like you got to do like 15 or whatever, 10 minutes or something, then combine it all, and that's one. And then you'll add the other one later. Yep. I learned from that experience. We're going to do a better job next time, but it was very tedious. And then I told you, I was like, I'm not going to add much for music or sound effects. And then as I'm going through, I'm like, well, I can add a little of this. So
I do that. Yes. I do
so I started, but I try to kind of numb them a little bit so they didn't take over. The narration was really front and center. But I hope you did enjoy it. I don't know if you noticed, but at one point I did put a Wilhelm scream in there when Mon shot a guy.
Yeah. No, I'll go back and listen to the whole thing. I'm just not a fan of myself, at least not in that regard. So I was like, but I thought Christina did a great job. And I even told her, I don't know if she'll listen to it. I don't know if she's big on listening to her own work, because she did ask me if I listened. But she comes across as such a fucking professional, and she's so good at it, especially in comparison to everything we like. I'm almost afraid to have her listen to it and be like, why is my work going into this shit?
Exactly. That's why I was listening to this the whole time. I'm going, why does she, did you like bury a body for her? Why is she doing this for us? I
don't know. She was grateful. She loved it. She wanted to do more of the Mon Mothma character. So
well, the other thing that happened too, and we can move on after this, but this is a lot of peeks behind the curtain. I didn't know what she was going to send. I thought you were having her do the entire narration.
I thought that's what it was too.
So I thought she was going to be doing all the voices, and I thought, okay, well, I'll just have her do the narration plus Mon, and then I'll just plug in the guy's voice just for variation. I get the file, and it's just Mon's lines, and I'm like, okay, I guess we got to dust off Jay's audio and pull that together.
Fuck. Yeah, and had I known that, because I told you I was going to redo it because you threatened me. It was like, well, I guess we're just going to use your narration and we're going to go. And I was like, wait, she said she's back. She's not sick anymore. She's going to send it. And you're like, okay, I'll wait for that file. And then I wake up the next morning and you're like, well, she only sent the audio for the dialogue of the Mon Mothma. I was like, fuck. That means he's going to use. Yep. So yeah, it's all out there. I hope you got past the shit show of it and at least enjoyed it a little bit.
I think it worked out great in the end. I hope everybody enjoyed it. It's really well written. It's just the performances.
Can you get past the performance to enjoy the written part? I hope so.
And like you said, Mon's lines were great. But it's funny because Christina sends it over and she does it. She gives you 3 takes on everything.
Yep. Yeah.
And she does different inflections and stuff. It's really it's impressive stuff. So thank you again to Christina. If you'd like to find our show, from a certain point of skew.com, we're on Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky at FACPAPod. And you can email us, facpapod@gmail.com. You can also leave us a voicemail, 678, that's 1678-FACPA77, which is 678-322-7277. What's in the show, Jay?
Well, we didn't say who we are. So this is your first show. I'm Jason the Angry Ginger Jedi Guy. I always say I'm broadcasting from Wookiee Poo Studios. Not alone, of course. That's Matt. He's on the other line. He's the one that put all of the work into the show. And he just asked me what's on the show today. So, question of the week. Should I, Jay, be named the new head of Lucasfilm? Like I said, I think we should share that. In the news, we got 2 things because we haven't been on the old podcast in a while. So we got Andor trailer and release schedule we're going to talk about, and then Kennedy stepping down, or is she? Boy, that was an up and down. I pulled her out of the woodwork, and she had to do a whole deadline article, though.
A fun 48-hour
Yeah, no shit, there. Man. Fucking YouTube and everyone's blowing up. Everyone that hated her was like, finally. And then the next day, they're killing themselves. Yeah. Skeleton Crew Season 1 review. We're finally going to discuss that. And then we're going to give away a little something to our winners. We get to that at the end of the show.
So when it comes to the question of the week, I put this out there as the rumors first dropped about Kennedy.
Right.
And then she, of course, then later comes out and clarifies some things, sort of. So the question was, there's been speculation about when Kathleen Kennedy would step down from Lucasfilm for years, and it appears it's now imminent. Who, and it might still be, frankly, who would you like to see replace her as the head of Lucasfilm? Obviously, us would be the first option, but other people had other options. Ro from Scarif Scuttlebutt says, I actually would like someone new that has a good record of producing solid films.
Hold on, stop right there.
She's got a good record of producing solid films.
Yeah. He has to know that. You find me someone better other than like Frank Marshall.
I think her record is pretty fucking up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe he just means another person who's recorded a lot of, who's produced a lot of great movies. Someone with a keen idea of the business of movie making that also respects what came before. I mean, he is kind of describing her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know what you want there. Responding to Ro was Loki Jarson, who said, yes, not Filoni or Favreau. They are both creatives. You need good managers. Now that's a fair point. And one that I was thinking about is she was a producer. So she was more on the creative side of sorts, more so than the corporate side. But then she's morphed into that.
Producers handle a lot of like that corporate side.
They do.
They do scheduling. They do budgets. They're responsible day to day.
I know, but it seemed like she was more of a filmmaker producer than a corporate type. And then she kind of morphed into that role more so. But what I'm saying is that's maybe not the best place for somebody like a Dave Filoni to operate. Because then does it take him off of what he does best, which is, the creative stuff? Does it take his attention away from those sorts of things and the product is hurt because of it?
I think that's why the perfect thing they did with DC Studios with Peter Safran, who handles like the business part of things, and then James Gunn can still make movies, but he can handle the creative aspect of because they're trying to build like that cinematic universe and stuff. So I think it's an interesting thing, and we really haven't seen enough output to see if that works with the two person presidency or whatever, but I think it would probably help Lucasfilm if they did it that way. Although, people complain, but it seems to kind of run that way. Like Kennedy handles the overall business aspects and stuff, and she's got such a name. I think that's why she's out there. But the creative stuff, didn't they named Filoni a year ago? The creative whatever, the head of.
He's the creative director, or not a creative director, but what do they call it? The chief creative officer or something like that.
Right, yeah. And I think Favreau's probably just beneath that, you know. So I don't know. I can see the complaints, but overall I've liked more than I haven't. And I was even thinking, like, look at the output they've had. Like, for all the people who've complained about, like, not having Star Wars for all those years or the gaps and everything. And we're finally getting, I mean, we complain because we're not getting enough still, right? We're getting 1 or 2 shows a year, but because we do a podcast, we're like, keep giving us more and more. But I mean, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, other than Marvel and their output of there was a couple movies you could argue in the first 3 phases and then from then on. But for the most part, like, I don't think anyone's been able to do what Feige did, but no. I don't think there's more to go, but
we'll get into that a little bit more too, as we talk more about her. Brown Leader says, I'm just going to beat Adelphi Rangers to the punch and nominate Paul Sun-Young Lee, the actor that plays Carson Teva. He could solve all problems. Well,
here we go.
Then Jim Perry says, someone who, ready?
Indiana Jim.
Loves Star Wars. Loves movies, loves video games, loves George Lucas, loves quality storytelling, loves America, hates political propagandizing, knows how to run a creative business, wants to see Battlefront 2 get made. Those are a lot of very specific things you're looking for there, Jim.
Also, I mean, the original Star Wars movies were based off a lot of the political propagandizing.
Well, that's the whole joke. Okay, that's the joke that we get into every time, is that people, argue about, quit, putting these political, things in Star Wars. And it's like, did you watch the first 6 movies? That's all it is.
Right.
So I don't know what to tell you. And all the people who like Andor,
I think it also comes with like the way you look at Star Wars, right? Because before Andor, even I was like not on board with all the political stuff. Not that I was against it, but I wanted more of the Jedi, that part of Star Wars. So I think,
but maybe not so overt, right?
Yes, right.
I mean, I get the sense that, I mean, yes, you can have these political elements to it, and that's the underlying theme. So I think some people think it's too in your face is what the argument is, I guess. But I just love the loves America, hates political propagandizing, and then ends on a hard one. I want to see Battlefront 2 get made. Wow. Brown Leader again, it'll take a true visionary to lead Star Wars into the future, bridging gaps between the generations of fans and able to brave the resulting blistering discourse. There's only one true viable candidate, Cam Ray.
Nice.
He's doing a lot of work out there, Cam Ray. Go check him out. Check out, what's this podcast called? Star Wars and Smile. Star Wars and Smile. Yeah. Max Rebo, the Max Rebo band had its greatest success working with Jabba the Hutt. I imagine Lucasfilm would also benefit from his leadership style. You almost did the Jabba laugh there. That was good. Adelphi Rangers, if all of Kennedy's meddling in shows and movies caused all this chaos, I have no idea, then I think a hands-off CEO type that handles the business side and leaves the creation to the creative types, or Elon with blue skin, and he puts a picture of Thrawn, which him saying, "You're quite right, of course." Yeah, don't let Elon anywhere near Star Wars, please.
Yeah, but Kennedy, she has to have her hands in all of it. She's the fucking head of Lucasfilm.
Right.
It's no different than George Lucas being the head of it.
It's different, but it's...
I mean, as a company.
I see what you're saying, yes.
Yeah.
I think she has a larger hand than... I don't think she's like how can I say this? She's kind of the final say, but I think she lets those people do their thing before she fires them.
Yeah.
No, but because, like I said before, because of her history and her involvement in movies in the past and Spielberg and all these different things,
right. I
think she feels like, and I think justified, has a pretty good opinion on what works and what doesn't. And so she does weigh in with that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. If you get somebody who's solely the business side, you don't have that aspect, and maybe you lose something because of it. I don't know.
Well, you also don't have, other than Marvel, and maybe because this is under the Disney banner, so you see it more, but a lot of production companies don't come out and announce like their schedule the next 5-6 years down the road, you know, because shit happens. You hear it all the time about movies that they know are greenlit but are never announced or whatever, and then they drop off, actors move on or whatever. But this is like, and that's like a business move, a learning experience, right? Like they come out the gate and they got to be like, we're offering all this Star Wars, and then some of it doesn't happen, and she's a shit producer for that, or she's like, I don't know. Like I don't think I could do it any fucking better.
No?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I would probably pick different projects or have different ideas, but like overall, I'd be just as fucking hated. Who wouldn't?
Well, everybody will. Especially with a franchise that's held so dear by so many people. When we talk about this article in a second that she did with Deadline, there's a lot of interesting quotes that kind of speak to that as far as like the development cycle and all that stuff. So we'll get to that in just a minute. We have 2 more question of the week answers. Christopher Williams says, I have no idea who I'd recommend. Whoever it will be, I hope that we got demands.
Okay.
A, don't let fans dictate what happens to Star Wars. B, be bold, take big swings, make it fresh, new, and unexpected. And C, have a thick skin for the grifters. Well, those are pretty good components to have because you're going to have to deal with a lot of that. Thick skin is important. And finally, Brown Leader, one more time. There's only one person that can return Jay to the point of pure love for every new Star Wars project. That person that can do no wrong, Genevieve O'Reilly.
I agree. I think Star Wars Celebration this year, they announce her new show.
That would be bold.
Yes. Didn't see it coming, but you're going to see me coming.
Well done. Thank you, everybody, for your answers. So news, they sure took their sweet time, but we finally got that Andor Season 2 trailer, and oh boy, it goes hard.
Do you think like there was a little bit of like, we got to put this fucking trailer out there?
Like they were planning on doing it weeks later. Like
Twitter's losing their fucking minds.
I guess people thought it was coming to the Super Bowl. We got to get on it.
Right. Oh man. And then everyone gets the trailer and they start complaining.
About the music.
Yeah.
They're mad about the music.
What are they showing here? This isn't fucking Star Wars. Well, no shit. Yeah. Learn marketing. We're all in. Everyone who wants to watch Season 2 of Andor, they didn't need to put a trailer out for in the first place.
Right. They're trying to draw in other audiences. They're trying to get people excited. And judging from what we're seeing, it's like, you know, all you fuckers who said Season 1 was boring, they're certainly ratcheting up the action here. So you're going to get what you want. But I don't want to go like beat for beat through the trailer. I don't think we need to do that because we'll cover a lot of that stuff in our preview. But maybe we can just kind of cover some of the main stuff. And so, yeah, just what was your overall thought of the trailer, and how mad are you about the music?
I thought it was an interesting take because I was like, oh, they're trying something here. They're trying to get people to watch. I mean, look, this is the most expensive Star Wars show like in history. It's the no secret. This is the reason why there's only 2 seasons, and they were kind of forced. Disney's hand was forced, right, to do this season. So of course they're going to do anything they can. Probably a little late, I don't know, and like attracting a new audience. But I mean, they came out with it. This wasn't like the sci-fi music. You're not hearing fucking Duel of Fates over the thing, you know. It's some. Right. You know, I thought it was kind of a cool thing. I like the words they were putting up on the screen to be like, look, this show was fucking, everybody had something good to say about it. So anybody who wasn't aware of it or isn't like a Star Wars super fan, you know, looking at this and be like, oh, maybe I'll give this a go. I think it was a smart thing. I think we're going to get a trailer that's going to be catered to all of us who love Star Wars. But,
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, I think some people took a little pause when they first heard the song that they associated with the trailer. And then on the 9th time they watched the trailer, like, actually it fucking rocks because it totally fits, because the theme is, you know, the revolution and all that stuff. Yeah. So kind of makes sense that they would be using this, and they're blowing shit up everywhere. I mean, there's a lot going on in this trailer.
Yeah.
It looks, of course, as we expected, like you said, a lot of money went into this. You can certainly see that. It looks very cinematic.
Yes, it does.
Our gal Bix, or Binks, as you like to call her, she has really turned the page from her Guantanamo Bay treatment and is like a fucking cold killer now. And every scene she's in, she looks like fuck everybody. She is just stone-faced and happy to bring the heat. Yeah,
she needs what they call vitamin D. Because she's got some serious seasonal depression on that face.
Yeah, there's a lot of pain in there. She's trying to get it all out.
Oh, that trauma was real. It was a Deirdre inflicted on her.
That was the doctor or whatever that she. But it was Deirdre that did it. Yeah, she has been through a lot. She was just a mess at the end of season 1. It was cool. You get that cool shot of her and Cassian walking away as they, you know, hit the kill switch and blow up the ship behind them. Thank you, Tony Gilroy, for not making that slow motion. Appreciate that. That would have been a bit much. Michael Bay would have.
Oh, hell yeah, you would. Cameras be spinning around. You have a drone shot going through it. Yeah.
It looks like Cassian's going to steal a TIE Interceptor or something similar and just wreak some fucking havoc.
I would say never in history has a TV show and or a trailer ever shown the back of someone's head more than anything else.
It's true. It's a lot of walking shots.
You'd almost think like in the editing bay, they're like, shit, we put the camera on the wrong side of the person.
Do we have the other shot?
Yeah.
John, did you get that other shot? No?
Other shot.
Oh, I guess we're going to have to use this one then. Slow down your walk.
Mm-hmm.
Although it's all practical, so he doesn't have to worry about running into the edge of the screen.
There you go. Yeah.
We get some great shots of your gal Mon. Clearly, she is either going hard on that Alderaanian wine, or maybe she's doing some spice bumps in the refresher. I don't know what's going on, but she looks like she is ready to party at Lita's wedding.
Well, I thought so too, and I took it like that, and I was like, I'm happy to see my girl happy here. Mm-hmm. But upon my 360th view, I think there's a little tear in her eyes. She looks like she's playing a part, and she's not too happy for it.
Well, it could be that she's playing a part. I also thought there was a little bit of a release of stress going on at the party. Like, fuck it, I'm going to have some fun. But then, of course, later you see she turns and is looking at something and has that troubled Mon, that patented troubled Mon look on her face. And I can only imagine that either Perrin is getting sucked off by the new mother-in-law of Lita in the closet, and she sees it and is like, God damn it.
Does she care?
or that's when Orson Krennic walks in. Because there's a scene later where you see him kind of in that space. So I'm thinking he shows up at that wedding, and she's like, God, come on.
Right. Yeah.
You were invited?
I know. But now she's got to play nice to this fucking goon at a wedding that she doesn't want her daughter to have, that she's kind of she's forced to do in order to get the banking situation so she can funnel money through. Right. I mean, this is, not the ideal situation that a mom wants to be put in.
Who's Krennic's plus one?
Ooh, it ain't Vader.
No, it's not Vader. Speaking of Imperials, we get a shot of Dedra looking rather bothered. Mm-hmm. The only one quick shot of her, I think. They only show her once. Then we see Cyril wearing his best Gryffindor outfit. Hey, fucking nerd.
He's got that seatbelt tie on, though.
He got the seatbelt tie, but his jacket and everything, he looks like Harry Potter. It's like, what are you doing, dude? That is not how you're going to get your girlfriend, is by wearing that outfit. You also get a quick shot of Cyril's mom, Edie, who, by the way, I just watched a very different role for her in the show Black Doves. Have you seen Black Doves?
That's the Keira Knightley spy?
Yes.
No, I haven't seen it. Is it good?
It's good. I liked it. I think it's got some humor bits in it too, but it's got a lot of edge to it. It's pretty gritty.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, she's in it in a very different role. Like when I first saw her, I was like, that's Edie.
Okay. All right.
She's not eating cereal. She's not, she's not guilt tripping anybody.
Right. Yeah. Talking shit to her son. Although she looks like maybe the shit talking work, because he seems to be doing a little bit better in his lot in life. And
tough love. Yeah.
And is she doing better because of it, or has something else happened? Because her garb is she's decked out in new clothes. She's got jewelry on. Her hair looks a little. She's got the expensive hairspray in it.
Right. She is one for appearances for sure. So she's putting on something.
Right.
And you're right. Maybe Cyril's doing so well that it's made her lot in life better.
I hope it's reversed. Like when he goes home, he just talks shit to her.
I can't wait. I have not started the rewatch yet of the first arc. I can't wait to get into that whole exchange again with those two and her just fucking laying into him about his miserable life. Oh God, it's so great. You get that really cool shot of the troopers without their helmets on. We can speculate about this when we get to the preview more. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. I don't know if that's like we're supposed to know who that is and those are troopers, or if those are like rebels in troopers gear or what. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looked like a pretty cool shot.
Yeah.
And then we also get a bit of Saw there. Mm-hmm. And you see his X-Wings, those X-Wings like from his crew taken off from that place where they clearly just fucked it up.
Yeah, they did.
And it's going to be real interesting to see how much the methods that Saw uses and how much they toe the line or cross the line.
Right. But we're also, by the end of this season, they're all supposed to come together.
Well, no.
I mean, are we led to believe that Saw's group becomes part of the rebellion in Rogue One?
Well, they really aren't. They're still operating
like
on their own.
Cell. Yeah,
So I think you may even see the rift grow even more. Maybe they do for a bit, or I get the impression that we're going to see at least a moment where Saw's going to do something almost like we saw in Bad Batch, where Saw's going to do something he thinks is for the good of his cause, and it's going to fuck up what the rebels are trying to do. And they're going to be like, God damn it, Saw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think we're going to get a little bit of that.
He's the reason Tech died.
Exactly. So you think I would hate him.
Right.
I don't, but you think I probably should. Anyway, did you have anything else in the trailer or any of that stuff? I was going to...
More Luthen. Only one shot of him as well.
Yeah, just one shot. He was steaming his face or something. I don't know
Right,
what he's
yeah.
doing there. making a Philly cheesesteak sandwich or something.
Man's got to eat.
Man's got to eat. As a reminder, by the way, to our listeners, we are going to kind of start our Andor run in earnest next week.
Yep.
We're going to kick off looking back at the first arc of season 1. So we'll do episodes 1 through 3, and then each week we'll do, I guess, much like they're going to do with their schedule. Each week we're going to do a 3-episode arc and kind of walk through that and talk about it. We'll have guests on for a couple of those.
Should we not listen to the past episodes of the show, but wait until we've recorded the new ones and then go back and see if we say the exact same things?
Wait a minute. You mean go back to what we did the first time we reviewed?
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to go back and listen to that.
Okay.
No chance.
Okay.
I don't want to. It'll negatively influence us in some way, you know?
Sure.
And I'm not. It'll also make me go, I said this before way too many times. We're just going to talk about it as if it's new. People who have been longtime listeners of the show, who we appreciate very much, they might hear some takes that we had there, or we might have changed our takes, forgot about it. But we're going to cover it kind of fresh, I think, you know?
All right. I'm going in fresh.
And we'll get into, we'll do a preview episode after that, which is kind of like get into our, what we think is going to happen season 2, predictions and stuff like that. But I think you had an idea that because of the fact that they're going to, because they shared right around the time the trailer dropped, that they're not only going to do the first arc in the first week, they're going to do 1 arc per week. So 3 episodes per week. Right. So basically the whole thing is done in a month, which is pretty sweet. And I like the idea that they're going to do that so that you can tell a complete, you know, at least story, little mini story within each week.
Right.
But as a podcaster,
that's
I'm a little bit struggling with this one because 1, how the fuck are we going to cover it? And 2, I kind of like the build throughout the weeks. It was going to go on for almost 3 months.
Right. It gave us content.
Yes.
Yeah.
They fucked us. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah. And we got, as far as we know, we got no new content after this.
We don't. And as a company who likes to have subscribers to their streaming service, I'm surprised that they would go with that. But maybe they, is it them taking a chance on, hey, you know what? We've heard mixed reviews on certain shows we've done where they get mad because they watch an episode and they get furious that it left off at a certain point or was only so long and had to wait another week. So why don't we just give them the whole fucking piece of that story each time and then they won't gripe about it?
Yeah, it's kind of like you get to play both sides, right? Instead of doing the weekly release and waiting so long to get through the story, you're doing a little bit of the binge, right? So you're getting more episodes, but not the whole thing at once. So you sort of, you're in the middle and you get a little bit of water cooler talk. Because that's the one thing that for us that works really well is we get to do the water cooler talk, the what ifs, the speculations, like where are we going next, you know? And then when you get the next episode, we get all this content. So, and I think that's something that's really important for shows to have a lasting life.
Agreed. And it makes me wonder what they're seeing in their streaming and subscriber numbers and views. Because, you know, I don't think we ever really know the accurate numbers there. But it's like, are they seeing it where a show goes 1 or 2 episodes and then falls off the face of the, you know, cliff because of the fact that things are like lingering and they haven't told enough of the story to grab them, so they want to tell these more complete stories? Maybe that's the attempt here. I'm not sure. Right. I mean, it certainly works because of they're doing 3-episode arcs every year, you know, for 1 year and then fast forward a year. So it makes sense to tell it that way. It just made me think, how the fuck are we going to do this? You told me at one point on DM, you're like, are we doing 3 one-hour episodes per week or what are we doing? And then you came up with an idea that maybe is the way we should go, which is maybe keep it a little higher level, not get too deep into each episode when we do our reviews, and then go back when this is all said and done and do like deeper dives into each individual episode. Is that what you were kind of going for? Yeah.
We'll cover the arc, broad strokes, our thoughts. We'll, you know, give a little speculation, I think, but that'll prevent us from having 4 or 5 hour episodes. You know, and then I like it when we kind of go deep into the woods. The only thing that'll be different is we'll know everything when we go back into the episode.
We will, so it won't be as speculative. It'll be we'll know exactly how it turns out. But we can break those things down bit by bit. We can also, like you mentioned, try to have some guests on and stuff to help us kind of go through those episodes as well.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect
I'm
time.
perfectly happy to do that. I think that is the only way to really make it work without us having to put out, like you said, these just incredibly long episodes or multiple episodes per week. That's brutally hard to do. So, well, that's probably what we'll do. Anything else on Andor for now?
It's coming out.
It is. We're getting
April
close.
22nd.
Yeah, what are we, like 7 weeks away or something? It's coming up. It's pretty fast.
I haven't been on Twitter much today. So someone's always posting 52 days left.
Yes,
For-
right.
you know,
But the other thing is, we are going to be bombarded for like a month because it's going to be April 22nd, Andor. That weekend or whatever around that weekend is Celebration with a bunch of shit coming out there.
yeah.
The 25th of April, they're re-releasing Revenge of the Sith in the theaters.
Yeah.
Star Wars Day, May the 4th, which we're going to do FACPA stories for that. Like, we have a lot of stuff coming up that we got to get on that.
Yep. Hey, I'm already writing.
I like it. Okay, let's talk Kathleen Kennedy, more Kathleen Kennedy. So, our dear, dear friend, Kathleen Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was maybe the beginning of last week, middle of last week, when that first rumor dropped that she had decided she was stepping down as the head of Lucasfilm by the end of the year. Like you said, for a moment, every YouTube theorist probably started, doing an end zone dance,
Right.
I'm sure Mike Zero was like, I fucking told you 7 years ago. And it wasn't like that, whatever that rumor was only one person. Like it was making the rounds to all these different places. The Hollywood Reporter, your favorite toilet reading, was had a story about it as far as who was going to take over. Like it was being run with as if it was a done deal. And that's when they started to get into the whole, like, okay, who was going to take over? And they, the Favreau-Filoni thing, which we've kind of talked about. Feige was thrown out for fun.
You're right.
Or was it going to be one of the higher ups that's, in Lucasfilm now, which kind of sounds like that might be what it ends up being. But then Deadline does this interview with Kennedy, like you said, kind of grabs her real quick, like, hey, this stuff's floating around. You want to speak to this? So she sort of clarified some things, but I wanted to share kind of some tidbits because she also talked a little bit about the future of Star Wars. So here's some of the highlights. I guess we can get into some of these quotes. First and foremost, when asked about the recent rumor, she said, quote, "The truth is, and I want to say loud and clear, I am not retiring. I will never retire from movies. I will die making movies."
Right.
Wow.
But that's her being a producer, not necessarily staying on to run Lucasfilm.
Right. That is
true.
Then she said that there's been a plan for her succession that they've been discussing for years. And she said, quote, "What's happening at Lucasfilm is I have been talking for quite some time with both Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. We have an amazing bench of people here, and we have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road." Well, so the timeline all of a sudden in that rumor sounds about right.
Yep. Well, yeah, the announcement will probably be at Celebration, and then she'll wrap the end of this year.
Oh, I thought you meant like rap. Like she's gonna. Like
she's gonna come out. Yeah, the hat backwards. Fucking her and TLC.
TLC. Wow. Left Eye's dead, sir. They don't have a rapper.
What do you think she's taking over?
Oh, she's taking Left Eye's spot. Yeah. Wow. We have an amazing bench. I mean, that sounds like we're promoting from somebody from within, right? And that's where the whole question comes up.
Well, they've been restructuring. Like we've been having these little news bits where they brought in a couple people. They've been moving people around, announcing new titles for people. So I think like she's probably not lying when she says they've been having these discussions, but finding the right person that's going to take over and announcing that's one of I think this is one of those things where she was forced to kind of come out and talk, but I don't think she was extremely forthcoming.
No, she was kind of talking around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Not committing to anything. I mean, she did say, she reiterated the thing about, announcement coming out a month or a year out. And she said, I'll stick around to make sure the person's successful and all that stuff, which I'm always like, so you're going to be like standing right behind them the whole time going, ooh, I wouldn't do that. But she also said that she confirmed she is producing both those two upcoming Star Wars films, Mando Grogu, and she said Levy's film, which she said is next in the queue. So she confirmed.
And no mention of the Rey movie.
No mention of the Rey movie.
Yeah. No. And did she actually say that Gosling was in Levy's film?
No.
See, I've been seeing that posted, and I'm like, I didn't see her actually say that.
Not that I saw in the quotes.
Everyone's just releasing, this is what came from Kathleen Kennedy. Levy's movie is next. Ryan Gosling's in it, blah, blah. And I'm like, I didn't see that confirmed.
I didn't see the Gosling thing. And she speaks at some point about like how they're always making sure that they've got the talent locked up to tell this, to do the Star Wars. She didn't say actors necessarily. She was speaking more about the filmmakers, the creators. Yeah. So I think that's what I never heard anything about Gosling, but we'll still assume that he's going to be in it.
Right.
She was talking about kind of the projects they've pursued, and she says when you have a brand that's this expansive, you try to find different entry points for different generations because that's what Star Wars has always been. It's a very generational brand, and we want to sustain that, and we work hard to sustain that. And we've talked a lot about this before. That you've got everything all over the board. You've got Andor at the darker, more serious end. You got young Jedi tales or adventures or whatever at the other end. They're trying to find inroads to all sorts of different people. So not everything's going to work for everybody, and we know that. So we typically kind of just sit out certain projects because we know it's not really for us.
Right.
She talked about all the criticism Star Wars gets for failed projects. She said, quote, "That's a tricky one because a lot of the scrutiny around Star Wars and the negativity has been about development. Of course, we're going to develop lots of different things with an understanding that not everything gets made. Now, to be fair, on both sides of this issue, one, yes, rumors drop all the time. Directors and writers are associated with things, then they fall out, so it makes it look like it's just a mess over at Lucasfilm. When that's happening all the time everywhere, it's not uncommon. However, you also have made announcements of things and then had to draw that back. Not that doesn't happen for other people, but when you do announce some of these shows, I mean, granted, when she did that, whatever that was, that fucking 10 or 12 project announcement back on that investor day.
Yeah.
A lot of those things did get made, but there's a number of them that didn't. And that's where I think the criticism starts to come in is you announce it like it's coming and then it falls off the face of the earth. That's when people start to get antsy.
No droids, no Rangers of the New Republic, no Lando.
Rogue Squadron hasn't happened, although they still say it's floating around.
Yep.
Yeah, Lando. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why some of that stuff comes out. But I do get what she's saying. She's probably like, God damn it. Like, we can't even have a conversation about a project because people are going to think we greenlight it before we're just talking about it. She was asked for more kind of about like the active projects, and she had some fun things to share there. She said, talking about the current projects in development and what she's confident will get made. She said, how many? She said, to play it safe, I'd say 3 or 4 right now at the moment. 3 or 4? Only 3 or 4 that you're confident about getting made?
Out of all the projects.
She's being coy there.
Right.
Because I was going to say, insert Kylo Ren meme. More!
Well, that means that's 3 or 4 projects that'll probably be announced at Celebration.
I would think so.
Yeah.
They're that far along, but obviously many, many, many in the queue. On Simon Kinberg, she said he's literally going to script as we speak. We'll see something probably around June. Clock's ticking. This is the next iteration, the new saga that moves us into the future. You're tasked with that, Kinberg. Good luck.
Right.
Remember we talked about thick skin earlier?
So is this... This is like really tricky because she doesn't mention like Rey.
No.
And the way it's worded is almost like this is a whole separate new story. It's not a Skywalker story, right?
That's what you would assume. It's on the heels of that stuff, the core Skywalker saga. But yes, it's meant to be new.
Interesting.
I don't know.
So are they skipping the Rey movie?
No, I think Rey's still going to happen. I think it's a matter of, is Rey going to be, how involved is she going to be in the Kinberg stuff? And is there still this one-off movie that's more focused on her? I don't know. I mean, we've heard it come from so many different angles. We've heard Daisy Ridley talk about it like it's all systems go.
Right.
But yet we don't have any more than that. On Levy, she said, Sean's is a standalone Star Wars story that'll take place post-9, maybe 5 or 6 years out. It's all pretty much new characters. We may bring some of the characters back from the sequel saga, but pretty much new characters.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And she says, including Ryan Gosling, who I have a major crush on. Oh, there it is. She did talk about him.
Oh.
No, she didn't say that. She also said about Mangold that he was working on the script. She said, Kinberg is working on multiple scripts. Or she said scripts, so plural. And then she said they've been working with Levy for 1.5 years. So
that sounds right.
Whatever. I mean, do you think we heard about it that long ago? We didn't. We heard about it like just last year sometime.
Yeah, because it was before. It was while he was shooting Deadpool, I think.
Was it? All right.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember the timing. It all bleeds together. Then she also said, this is a fun one. I keep waiting for Taika. Aren't we all? And he is working with another writer now. He's so busy. I love him. I think if we ever get to do a script from Taika, or if we ever get a script from Taika, it's going to be fantastic. I already saw a first act that I loved, but tying him down is tricky.
I mean, I can see why she says that because I imagine he's the guy that when he's in a room, you want to be around.
Yeah, he's animated.
Yes.
Great storyteller. And, he's funny and does wild shit. So you could certainly throw a first act out there that would get your attention. Now, can he stick the landing on it? We'll see.
I mean, as a filmmaker, he's hit more than he's missed in
I
my
agree.
eyes.
Yeah, I agree with
So I think that he's got a good Star Wars movie in him.
And he was wonderful as the voice of IG-11.
Yeah, yeah. And a great director. He directed the finale of that season, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Final question on the interview. Will you step down this year? Quote, we really don't know at this stage. Oh, boy. There's so much going on. I don't know. So you are.
Yeah.
So those rumors are true, basically.
Yeah, because otherwise it would be, fuck no, I'm not. Look at all the shit that I've got to handle.
Right.
Yeah.
It certainly seems to be that those rumors are true.
This reminds me of the Amy Pascal situation after the Sony hack, where all of the shit came out. She's the president of Sony Film.
Oh, okay.
And she afterwards, like they went after her, and she's like, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm still the president." A few months later, she announced Pascal Pictures. She was staying on as a producer of Sony, and she was basically handed like Spider-Man, Ghostbusters, and something else that she would be like a full-time producer on. And this reminds me of like Kennedy, because I'm not leaving filmmaking, so she's going to keep producing. I think she gets, some of these Star Wars movies, but they're going to bring someone. And also, she's 71 years old.
She is, and her husband's like 80. So.
Didn't he die?
No, he's still around.
Okay.
Damn, you're writing him off already. No, because they asked her at some point in that interview about, like, do you want to do more stuff with your husband? Because I think he was involved with the last Indiana Jones movie that she was involved in as well. So I think from her perspective, my guess is she wants to leave this company in the right hands. She feels an obligation to George because he basically handed it over to her. She wants to hand it over to somebody who's going to do something with it. But she's also probably like, I'm kind of fucking sick of this job, and I just want to go back to working specifically on some movies and impacting those and not having all this day-to-day bullshit that I have to deal with. I could see where she would, that's how she would feel.
I agree.
We'll see. We'll see.
Good riddance. Right,
I told you. Did you see my YouTube video from 2012 when I called this? Skeleton Crew. It's been a couple months, since we last watched and talked about the show. So we thought we'd do a little look back on the first season, touch on some of our favorite things we got, some of the characters we got, maybe some things that could have been done differently. And then we can get into our thoughts on, potential season 2 and if it'll happen and how they might do it. As well as I thought we'd talk a little bit about how the impact of Skeleton Crew's good reception, plus maybe Andor's as well, and how that might affect future streaming projects.
Okay.
So I think overall going into this series, we had high hopes. I think based on the premise of the Goonies, Stranger Things, Star Wars combination. You throw a charismatic lead like Jude Law in, and we're like, this could be something, but we didn't really know what we were going to get.
Right.
We thought, how kid oriented is it going to be? It's obviously this kind of coming of age tale, and just kind of what story were they going to try to do, and where would it fit with everything else? Because we know the timeline is roughly about the time of everything else that we're seeing lately.
In the Mandoverse, yeah.
In the Mandoverse. And so in the end, what I thought is they very much told their own story, which I think is one of the reasons that it worked, is because they didn't like rely heavily on other major Star Wars moments or cameos or anything like that. It was just, this is a familiar space. There's nods to things, but in the end, it's their own story that they're telling, and it's a complete story outside of the realm of everything else.
And even with the way that Ad-Atten was kind of plagued in the past, you weren't really, it didn't really matter like what era this took place in.
It didn't. No.
That was kind of the fun part. It was like some part of the mystery was like, okay, where in the hell are they in this whole thing?
It's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Because they clearly were unaware of a lot of things that had happened that we knew of. And it made me think, like, do you think that kind of approach of telling like a one-off encapsulated story within that universe is what helped this show become successful? Because maybe it felt more accessible to people because they didn't feel like they had to know all this lore coming in if they wanted to just jump in there.
I think it was a smart move, but I think we can go into more toward the end of this, but I think moving forward, I think they need to broaden it a little bit as well.
Right. You think maybe it was a little too small? They need to expand it a little bit more?
I think it was good for bringing in like new listeners or listeners that like don't know, or I'm sorry, new viewers that don't know everything, but moving into it, in order for it to like be part of the whole thing, I think they need to include some other side story or some element, some character, something that weaves through. You're like, oh, okay, like they did with Mando, because Mando was, and people have complaints about that, like it was his own thing, and then it became
season
basically
2
part of it. Yeah, but I liked how it opened up into more of that world. And of course, we've got this huge galaxy and a planet that no one knows about, so they don't really have to do that either. But it's kind of nice when they put that stuff in as well.
I think you're right in the sense that you're telling the story, you're getting people involved. It's its own story, but then you're also showing the connection points with everything else. Because Watson Ford said to do too much tied into all these other things we've seen makes the universe feel small.
It does.
Because why would all these things overlap? This is a huge universe or galaxy, whatever. So why would you not have these stories that happen that are totally unbeknownst to other people and that don't necessarily cross over?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think that was one of the gripes with Ahsoka that people had, even though we like that show, is you felt like you had to know some stuff going in to really get the full impact of that show.
Yeah. And you did. I think I would have had more complaints had they gone the other way. Because you can't really go into Ahsoka and just have a standalone story. There's just so much. And a lot of people don't know the animation, so they don't know. So I can see how that was tricky, but I think Dave was smart and not, and like trying to be like, well, this is an entry level show when it's not. So those people are just going to have to do some homework.
Yeah, right. I think that it's a fine line you walk to try to make it something that's appealing to somebody who has not seen all that stuff, but you really got to satisfy and stick with the lore of what came before. So I think one of the biggest, wins or whatever for this show was that it just had a lot of great acting. And not only Jude Law, I mean, the kids were fantastic because
the chemistry was off the hook. Yeah.
It was great. And I think if either of those things don't work, it goes downhill quickly. You know what I mean? Like, I think if the kids come across as naggy or annoying or something, or even on the other side, like too clever, that happens sometimes. They always try to make kids like way too fucking clever. I think sometimes that you just loses something. And because it would have been real easy to make them look like this totally capable, witty kids that are always a step ahead of everybody else. Well, that's not real. Right. So they were in over their heads. And I mean, throughout the entire show, like half the time they're scared to death. Like they're trying to, and the strength is because they're all in it together. They have a shared like issue that they're dealing with. And that's where they find the strength is within kind of the group.
And the show kept a good tone, even though there were serious moments and life and death elements and all that. Like the scenery was beautiful, or there was always a fun element to keep it going. Like I mean, it was almost the perfect kind of show, even as an adult. And it was one thing, like, especially like when you've got Andor, that's just so fucking dark and death, and the dialogue is just all about despair and war, and which is fucking excellent. But then you go the other way and you just sit down like, this is a popcorn. This is completely Spielberg. I mean, I think he captured this Amblin look better than J.J. Abrams did with what was the monster movie he did? Not Cloverfield, but what the fuck was the name of that movie?
Oh,
with the kids, and the kids were excellent in that as well.
It's incredibly important to work. It just doesn't work if you don't have that, because people are just going to tune it out or whatever. I like the way that they put these kids in harrowing situations and showed that they were overwhelmed at times, but then also showed them as kids and like they're having a fucking pillow fight in that hotel room.
Well, that's the thing is like
in the middle of the danger.
They hadn't lived enough or experienced enough or weren't even aware of how like dangerous the situation they were in, because
they didn't know what
kids.
They didn't know.
Yeah. So it was fun to watch how they did it and how Jude Law's character kind of played the, because now looking back, what he was up to or how his words worked, or I think it was a well-written show, but completely different from the way Andor's written.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you can have both, the way the tone and everything worked. Yeah.
Of course. And I mean, if you don't have someone like Jude Law in that role, it doesn't work either, because I think if you had somebody who wasn't as charismatic as him, you would have smelled the rat earlier on him. You wouldn't have been rooting for him at all. Even to the very end, we're still kind of rooting for him because we like Jude Law. He's charismatic, and so there's I think it's nice to have somebody who's a likable character like that, who's kind of has this magnetic personality, but does some shady shit, because you're real conflicted on how to feel about him.
Right, but also like at the end of the day, he's not a villain.
No, he's obviously shaped by his upbringing and everything there, and that's
right.
Turned him into what he is. He's doing what he thinks is best for himself, so he's certainly selfish, but that's a product of his upbringing.
But I think that's an element to look at, like, where you can understand.
Of course, and also he shows even to the very end how concerned he is, like, oh fuck, KB's gonna die, you dummies. Like he's
yes.
You know what I mean? Like he still has a heart. It's just that he's got his motives. So.
Right. Yeah. He doesn't want you to die, but he does want his money more.
Right. You gotta balance that.
Yeah.
So I want to hear your kind of who your favorite characters were. If you don't mind, I'll start just by saying two that stand out for me. One was Jude Law, of course, just because it's just a no-brainer. I mean, he was so great, and I love the kind of survivor con man act that he was running the whole time, and I think it was fun to theorize what his motivations were throughout the series, just to kind of figure out exactly, like, he's going to turn around, right? He's going to have the redemption. Well, not really.
Like we know that they shot some flashbacks, and
yes,
I think they were right to take it out. It wouldn't have fit what they were telling with this story, but he was an interesting enough character where I do want them to go back to that, or let us see how he, other than just using his words, it would be interesting to see those things on screen.
And that's certainly something for, when we get into the season 2 stuff that you could get into. There's some stuff to explore there with him and his character that we didn't get. We just got a bit of a sniff of,
I mean, if you do a season 2, I think the kids are the most important part. Do you need Jod Nanawood for the season 2, or can you have some other element? I do think that character could come in, but I think that character is rich enough where he could have his own series.
That's a good point. I don't think you need to have the two parties.
Right.
And if there's one party that's going to leave, it makes more sense for Jude to leave, for Jod to leave, excuse me.
Right.
And to continue to focus on the kids. And that's really why I think we don't get the flashbacks. I think they even talked about that, was that this show is focused on the kids and their perspective. Yep. So to show flashbacks of Jod was not necessary. You just get what he has told them. You get what he shared with them, not having to see it for yourself necessarily. Obviously, we get a few scenes with the pirates where the kids aren't around, but for the most part, it's through their eyes. Mm-hmm. The other one that I wanted to say is character, it was my favorite, was Kiriana Crater, who played KB. I thought that she had the greatest depth of character. I think they kind of held off for quite a while during the season to not show her. They would just give us these little glimpses of her and what she was going through and who she came, where she came from. But then when they shine the light on her, she just fucking destroyed it. I think that scene with her and Wim, where she's explaining essentially like her issues, her disabilities, and just how kind of she just wants to be, part of the crew. And
as her battery's dying.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was the probably the most emotional moment of the entire season, and I thought she was so good in it. And you could have easily overplayed that, but she played it really subtle, and I thought it worked really well. And I thought her character was just great.
They all were.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
I mean, I know you're a Neil guy.
Oh yeah. I mean, how could you not? Like Neil was fun. I think Neil could have not worked just as much as it did work.
Oh well, we saw that first trailer, and they said, "You want to go on an adventure?" Whatever. He's like, "Sure." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like just that line of him with that elephant face. I was like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if this is gonna work."
Yeah. So I mean, they did an excellent job with that, but they were the perfect. How do you each of them worked well off of each other. They all needed to be there for the story to work right, I think, and they did a great job. But I love as a kid, I love the opening, like when you first are introduced to Wim and Neil and they're playing Jedi at the bus stop.
Yeah, right.
That's just a fun thing. You buy these kids as kids and like their world they live in. Like they were smart to throw everything in this. It was recognizable enough by these kids in a suburb, right? Mm-hmm. And then that go on this adventure. I think they did a really good job with that. It was different, but recognizable. So you were introduced to it, and I think it helped go with the story almost immediately.
And it certainly shows that you can make different takes on Star Wars like this. I think when people first thought about it, thought you're going to show me suburbs in Star Wars. This is ridiculous. Yeah. I didn't think that, but I think a lot of people did. And I think they were able to pull it off just based on the premise of how it was preserved.
You have Brutus written down. Who's Brutus?
I just threw Brutus on there. Brutus was the pirate, was the guy, the number 2 for Captain Silva, who then takes over the pirates, the werewolf.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I was thinking of, I think the My other favorite character is the fucking Smee. SM.
Yes, he was great.
Yeah, that was a great character. I want more of that character, both before and after. Like I think that's a character that could show up sometimes, because there's got to be a history with that character. You know, the pirates and everything moving around. You could kind of throw him in, but I think he's essential to a season 2 with the kids.
Oh, absolutely. And there's something about the sassy droid in Star Wars.
Yes.
That, you know, if you get a good voice actor, and Nick Frost did a great job, it really plays out well. And I think you would have to keep him around with that crew.
Yeah.
Anybody else that like stood out? I mean, I didn't feel like there weren't any characters that were necessarily bad. I think they did a pretty good job of, you know, and if it was anybody, it would have been some side character. For the most part, I thought everything really worked. And the fact that the 4 plus Smee plus Jude all together was a great combo.
I would say I said he wasn't a villain, and Jod wasn't a villain to the kids so much as, but he had no problem fucking throwing the pirates out the chute, you know? So I mean, he killed Brutus. He killed Brutus
in cold blood, like just walked up and capped him. Yeah.
But he was a piece of shit. So like, you know, he had no problem doing that. So great character.
So what are some of your favorite kind of moments or scenes? Because I mean, I mentioned the scene with KB and Wim earlier. That was a great scene with them kind of sharing their feelings and all that kind of stuff. There were a number of other ones. I mean, I even thought right off the bat, like I was thinking back on the show and that cold open thrusting us into the pirate life and showing us what those guys were capable of. And everybody kind of knew that was Jod. Mm-hmm. That was a really great way to just jump you right into the series. It was to throw you in that way. And it felt very reminiscent of kind of the original trilogy, that whole scene.
Well, that, and it was smart to like give us that action, because like the rest of the series or that episode is really character build up.
It is
introducing the characters. I mean, it moved fast. You know, they've got their speeder bikes, and the kids are getting on the bus, and they watch them fucking jump a hill, and where'd they go? you know, they introduced the parents just enough. But yeah, that first episode, it was a perfect pilot episode. I think they did a really good job at like giving you just enough of everyone to know what the hell was going on.
Well, and it was good that they put the second episode out so you saw the adventure kick off too. You know, they laid the groundwork in episode 1, but gave you a taste of what was coming with episode 2, which I think was a good idea, which, you know, speaks to that whole thing we're talking about with Andor. You know, maybe give people a little bit more at a time than be
especially when the episodes are like 28 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Because then we get into those conversations. Yeah. I bet you people are not going to talk about Andor's episode lengths this season as much, because even if there are 32-minute episodes, you're getting 3 of them.
Yeah, you're getting an hour and a half, roughly, a little bit less or more for every week. So I think we'll be happy Star Wars viewers.
I think we will. A couple other ones I had written down. I like the whole Tak Renad chamber on Lanupa when they find like the treasure room essentially, and you get that holo video that's kind of obscured with Renad trying to figure out who he was, and then the funny bit with Wim igniting the saber upside down. I just thought that was, I thought that was a good moment of levity where it's like, this kid isn't going to pick up a saber and just be like swinging it around like a fucking Jedi. He doesn't even know how to turn the damn thing on, right side up.
yeah, that worked better than any other option they could have given us.
Yeah.
And unsuspecting, because you're watching and you're like, oh, this little kid's going to think he's a badass and just hold it, at least. And he didn't even get that far. No. Just zoom, bounces out of his hand. So
almost slice his foot off.
I mean, the chase scene on the planet when they first meet, what was the pocket? You know, they meet her at the hotel, and then when they're in, what was going on where they're running around and Jod's trying to avoid them? On the scaffolding in the mud pits.
Yes, they're out in the mud pits where whatever those little like pools are, where they're trying to, because they split up, and half of them go one way, half of them go the other, and he's trying to avoid the guards and like kind of work his way around them, and and then they meet that crazy creature down in the depths. It was there was a lot of fun stuff going on there. Another thing I liked was I just liked how everybody kind of played their part, like as they went along, they kind of all figured out what they were good at. And everything they ever did, you never saw them really do anything out of character. You saw them learn a skill and then use it later. They never like, you know what I mean? Like when they stole the ship from Lanupa, when they got the ship back, they all knew how to do those certain things. We'd already seen them do it. Because
they were taught.
So it wasn't like they just winged it and figured out how to do stuff. Yep. They actually showed us how they did it, and that's how they all pulled together and kind of went to their own roles. I really liked how they pulled that together.
Yep. Yeah.
The reveal of the supervisor as the droid, That whole scene was, I thought, pretty cool because one, I think we thought it was going to be a droid all along. So we were kind of like, well, there you go.
Yeah. Or like a computer system, but for it to be like a giant, like R2 like head
Right.
was, yeah.
Or looking like Hal with that eye. And I do like the fact that the explanation, getting more context of where does AT-AT sit and not just in geography, but time, because clearly they've been secluded for so long. The last message they got from the Republic was Order 66.
Right.
So that's kind of crazy.
And
I thought that was pretty cool. I mean, that was one of the few real tie-ins to kind of the rest of the Star Wars world. It was like that, a passing reference of Alderaan, you know, things like that. It was little bits. And also during that sequence, in that finale, I like the fact that we get that bit with Fern and her mom where she essentially is like, you need to stop being a helicopter parent. I know it's scary to let me go out in the world, and there's awful shit out there. Don't get me wrong. We saw some crazy shit. But everywhere we went, there was somebody good. There was always somebody good out there that was willing to help, which I think is a good message for that story and also good for us parents who have had people leave the nest, who are going to have people leave the nest, to be like, you know what? It's scary to let your kids go out there and do that, but they're going to experience a lot of bad shit, but there's also going to be a lot of good people out there. So I thought that was kind of cool.
That's a good lesson. And, you know, one of my favorites was, and I forget what's the name of the pirate asteroid, you know, where they first pull up.
Port Borgo.
Port Borgo, yeah, that whole scene, like when they escape jail and they're running through there and they're trying to get on the ship, or even was it before they went to jail when Smee was like big Billy badass and then he just gets shut down by a,
they definitely have a number of those moments where it's like I have the upper hand now, and now I don't.
Right.
And then I think the only other thing I was going to mention as far as scenes was that Jod finally kind of giving us a taste of what his backstory was at the end. You know, his like you mentioned before, they didn't need to do they didn't need to do the flashbacks because he gave us a taste of why does he have the Force? Because the whole time we're going, is this tricks or does he have the Force? Yeah. You know, Fern was like, it's all tricks, it's all bullshit. He doesn't have the Force. You know, she didn't believe it, and I think all of us were kind of questioning it, but to get him to kind of explain, okay, well, yeah, I got some Force stuff working. These are legit tricks, but I only got so far because the person who took me in got capped right in front of me.
Was murdered, yeah. Yeah, he was forced to watch, right? Yeah.
And that has set the tone for my life because the person I care about the most who took me in and took care of me was taken away from me. And so I knew that, you know, basically I'm on my own and I got to watch out for myself.
Yep.
That kind of sets the tone for his character. We did get that, like, what's her name? Yasmin Al-Masri, who said she filmed scenes as the Jedi Master.
Yep.
So that was something that was in play or still could be in play, you know, for the future of his character, which would be great. They also had that whole thing, remember on IMDb where there was the character Nina Nawood? I don't know if that's supposed to be the same person because wasn't it supposed to be some other actress?
That's what I thought, yeah. I thought that was what he took. But then, well, why would he have taken that person's name? So, yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Why is Solo? Just kidding. We're not going to get in that argument. Any other scenes or any moments that you stick out for you?
No, I think those are the big ones. I mean, what's the moon, you know, when they let Neil fly, just like visually.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing was.
Them walking along with the moon as the backdrop.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there's
Kim
great visual stuff, yeah.
Was there anything you think could have been done differently that would have made the show work better?
No, I think they did right by keeping most of it self-contained and just giving a little bit of like outside. I think because, like I said, the way the AT-AT was, but going into the second season, I think they don't have that luxury of like, oh, our world was away from everything, you know, and what's the next reason? Like, you know, AT-AT is going to come under some kind of control, whether good or bad, or they're going to fight over that. So I think that's a huge element, which will bring in the Republic, and so you will have some of those stories. But I don't see it being contained on that planet, though, right? They got to leave again for one reason or another. Yeah. So
people are going to come. You know, we know the New Republic's already there, but it exposes them for sure. It changes the whole dynamic of that planet and everything around it. So, yeah, I mean, I think I sat there and tried to think about like what, because we like the show so much, what could you possibly change? I think there's a couple things, or at least one, and that is more. I think it would have been better as a 10-episode season. I don't think it felt rushed necessarily, but they got back to AT-AT sort of quickly. I think
Right.
if you had 2 more episodes in there where they're still trying to find their way and manipulate their way back home, I think that might have worked better. Of course, I'm always looking for more episodes. So
I agree what you're saying though. Yeah.
you know what I mean? I think if instead of 8, if you had 10 episodes, I think it would have worked just a little bit better. I think you would have been able to take a little bit more time showing them come together, bond, et cetera, and have to work through a few more misadventures before they get back to Ad-Aden.
What's the hook? Like it was Goonies and like Star Wars, right? So what do they do? Because it can still be like a coming of age, right? They're older. I mean, they're going to be about 5 years older.
And Watson Ford, said that the kids are older. They're going to have to jump forward. They can't just pick it up where they left off.
Yeah.
So
it's just like a graduation. What are they going to do with their life afterwards, kind of thing? Like, yeah, I don't know.
How do you go on and try to become a systems analyst on that planet when it's totally exposed and open now and everything's different? Your whole world changed.
Yeah, and I think definitely the option to go to different worlds, or the option for the kids to do other things is definitely open. But like the adults have to handle that differently.
Mm-hmm.
What is their responsibility now that they're not being controlled by robots, but now, you can come in and are they being controlled by something else? What's the politics of how because like they're not really going to have a say.
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see how the adults handle that.
Yeah. I mean, that is part of the question too, is season 2 is, I wrote down, do we want it? Obviously. Do we need it? Did it already tell a complete story? And then of course the $150-ish million question is, will they actually make it? What did we say before? We thought that if we don't hear any sniff of it at Celebration, maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We should hear something by then.
Yeah.
Don't you reckon?
And I know it's an expensive show, but it wasn't on par with the other ones. And also, like, at this point, if you're making a streaming series, like, they just keep going up in cost anyway. So you're going to have to try and, I don't know. Disney seems to be changing their business plan when it comes to streaming, but they're still going to need content. And I think the big thing is you're right. Like, where does this fit in? And I think it would do the show better than, instead of just having like the elements of the Mandoverse happening and them being a part of it. I think there needs to be something in the second season that this kicks off something that makes the other shows recognize that. Am I saying that right?
I see what you're saying.
The plot of this is more important to the outside than everything that's happening on the outside coming in on them.
Yeah, right. How do they jump into the rest of the world versus the rest of the world coming to them?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, it's funny because when I was thinking about what do you do with season 2, and just, like you said, that the kids got to be older. How do they handle that? Like, what's going to happen? All those vaults of money and all this crap. The one thing I thought of was like, what if the opening shot of season 2 is like, it's 6 months later and Wendell hasn't left his couch because he's just been reading news from the past 30 years. He's like, they had two Death Stars. They fucking blew them up. Like, he's like going through all this stuff. He's like, I am caught up on he's binge watching history for the last 30 years. Missed a lot of stuff, guy.
Still forgetting to be a dad.
Right. He's like totally neglecting his son. He's like, dude, have you seen this? Have you heard of this Luke Skywalker guy? Oh, it's funny.
Maybe it'll be like Fern. It'll be like the reverse, like follow the girl to, like, Wim's going to follow the girl to college. Like, she's going to go somewhere else. So that gets them off.
To Coruscant. I go back to Coruscant.
Yeah.
I did have one small gripe too, but I don't think it made sense to bring any legacy characters in, but I was like, we didn't get Hondo or Maz. I was kind of hoping we might get one in there somewhere. Maybe in season 2. Maybe that's how they connect in season 2 is, they start expanding more so. To the future of the shows, I mean, just thinking about the last few years, let's say, like, Kenobi kind of got mixed reviews. Season 3 of Mando kind of got mixed reviews. The Acolyte obviously was rather divisive for fans, even though we liked it. Ahsoka was fairly positive for the most part. It did have some dings, but for the most part, it's pretty positive. So when you have a show that seems like pretty universally accepted as this seems to be, and then, like I said, with Andor season 2 on the horizon, which looks to be like it's going to continue its magic in season 1, where does that leave them with their shows? Like, because the only show we know that's coming is Ahsoka season 2 after Andor. Right. Nothing else is really scheduled. So do they try to limit series they do to kind of the Galactic Civil War through Mando era? Or do they try to do some things with sequel trilogy, kind of test the waters of the sequel trilogy era or even the prequel era? They've kind of done a lot of that in animation.
Right.
But where are they going to go next? Because other than maybe doing a Skeleton Crew season 2, and we know Ahsoka's coming, what else? There's nothing really else on the horizon as far as we know at this point from a live action series standpoint.
Right. Especially if they're taking like Mando to film.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, but we still know, we know supposedly all of these series are going into whatever Filoni's movie is going to be, right?
Yeah. So if that happens, is that going to wrap everything up? And then
right. But I mean, there's such
over?
we're only, how many years are we outside of, where are we in the Mandoverse right now? We're kind of still like 30 years or no.
Like timeline?
Yeah.
So I believe the first season of Mando was around 9 ABY.
Right.
And, and so the Force Awakens is like 34 ABY or something like that. So you still got granted, we're maybe a couple years beyond that now. So it's like maybe we're like an 11 ABY, something like that. Yeah. But you still got a good 20 something years before we get to the sequel trilogy.
And I mean, if you're, there's probably something they could introduce in the film where then they could have a series that's, underlays that and plays another story through. But I think the safe spot is the Mandoverse right now.
Yeah,
the shows have worked for the most part. I don't know if that was some of the turnoff with the Acolyte was High Republic and a lot of people not knowing that, understanding that, or wanting to accept it.
It's probably part of it.
I will say, I think I like the big swing that they did with the Acolyte though. And I think there's things that they did in the Acolyte visually that was better than Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree with that.
So I don't know.
I think the lightsaber battles in Acolyte were much better than Ahsoka.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, Ahsoka did have the one where it's her and Morgan. That was a pretty good one. And they had a couple that were good. But overall, I think the action in Acolyte was a little bit better.
Yeah, it was visually more interesting.
I think so.
But I think that's the safe space for streaming is that. But like, what character do they anchor on now that Mando's likely strictly film? Yeah, I don't know. Do they keep Ahsoka?
Like do more Ahsoka, you mean?
Right, but if Ahsoka supposedly going into the next film, maybe that's why they're bringing Rebels live screen. Maybe you do more with them because you could really bounce around with all the other characters. And, they did great with the 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Because Rebels you could have in the movie, but they're not something that you have to have. Like, they're not the main stars, Right. So I think that might be
can operate.
They
can operate on their own and do side missions that don't necessarily have to be tied directly to what we saw.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I'm just curious I'm curious what the temperature of that room is to go. Okay, well, Skeleton Crew kind of brought us back a little bit. Andor season 2, let's hope, crushes, and at least from a standpoint of everybody really likes it. I don't know what the numbers look like. Where do they go from there? We'll see how Ahsoka goes, and then we'll kind of go from there. I don't know. I'm really hoping they're queuing. I would still like to think that we at least get one show a year.
Yeah, I would too.
Anything else on Skeleton Crew?
No.
Should we do our giveaway? So
let's do it.
We've done this in the past, of course. Any listener to the show knows, but you get entries for all different sorts of things when you engage with our show. Whether you write a review or send us an email or leave us a voicemail or answer our question of the week, all that kind of stuff. So we have tabulated that all up. I think that we did this last time. Instead of doing a first, second, third, and we pick what your prizes are, you choose. So the winner chooses, and essentially what you're looking for here is these characters that they're figures that they've put out for Skeleton Crew. I think they're all out. So I think the ones you can choose from, at least from what I saw online, it's Jod, Fern, KB, Neil, Wim. So the main 5 there, and Brutus. I did not see Smee anywhere. How the fuck is Smee not an option?
Wow.
I did not see his character. But if you find it, let me know. There's a bunch of other characters they could have gone with. Glurb, the Delphi Rangers would want Glurb, but and I know the Ithorian historian is clamoring for Mrs. Ick. Remember Mrs. Ick, the Ithorian walking the dog?
Oh, right.
How do you have Brutus and not Smee? I don't get that. So anyway, those are the 6 characters that I saw online. If you find somebody else, let me know. But that is what you will win. So each one of these winners gets this. You need to pick a number between 1 and 147 is what we got entries for.
1 and 147?
just so you know, Brown Squadron came in with 32 entries and Max Rebo 28. So those are the top two.
Holy shit.
Two guys jamming the box. So anyway, I have numbers up. So if you want to give me 3 numbers in a row, and we will roll through and pick the winners of the figures.
Real quick, it looks like they released like the first phase of characters, but it looks like Mandalorian's one of them.
What? I don't know. We'll figure it out. You will get your characters. Don't worry. Even if it takes a little bit for them to be released, but I think some of them are already out, so we should be able to get you something. All right. So you go ahead and give me a random one from 1 to 147. Give me a number and I will look it up.
Number 40.
40. Let me go down the list here.
Mm-hmm.
I Am Anakin's Father is the winner.
Oh.
Longtime listener. Well, sort of longtime listener. Interacts with the show a lot anyway.
I'm Anakin's father.
You are Anakin's father.
Yeah.
So you get a win there. I got to mark this so I don't forget. Okay.
Anakin's father. Congratulations.
Congratulations, I Am Anakin's father.
Yeah.
Appreciate you interacting with the show. Number 2.
87.
87. Brian Hour.
Brian Hour.
Who has been with us from the beginning, since episode 0, I believe. Brian Hour has been with us.
Multiple podcasts before this one. He's been around a long time.
It's right time he won something.
First time winner, not first time caller.
No, not at all. It's going to be funny if Brown Leader and Max Rebo don't win, considering all their entries.
They're a winner in our heart, regardless if they win this episode.
They've also both won before, so I'm not going to feel too bad.
Yeah.
All right, last one.
All right, last one. 72.
72. Cam Ray.
Cam Ray.
Way to go, Cam
Star
Ray.
Wars and Smile.
Future guest on the show, Cam Ray. You win something nice. So there you go.
He wakes up a winner every day.
He does.
Today's a double winner.
He is a happy man. I don't know if it's prescription based or he's just that happy, but he is a happy guy.
A lot of cocaine before he shoots.
Oh, Star Wars and sniff. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, there's your winners. Thank you very much, everybody, for all your participation in the show. We're going to have another giveaway coming up for Andor, where I believe we're going to give out
season 3.
Yeah. No, we're going to give out that book, the Reign of the Empire book.
I just started that book. Yep.
I got it. I haven't started reading it yet.
Okay.
We should do. I was thinking I was going to read it before Andor, but I thought I'm going to wait till after, and maybe we can do a little mini review on the show.
Do a review of that.
Year.
Yeah.
Since we're going to need stuff to talk about.
Right. And it's the first of 3 books, I believe. So
you're right. So we're going to get 2 more of those bad boys. Mm-hmm. A lot of Mon talk. All right. That was it.
That's it. You guys are winners. Thank you for listening. Everybody who didn't win, please listen to our Andor coverage and you can be a winner next time.
That's right.
Thanks for listening. I don't have the sheet
And
up.
Until next time.
And until next time.
Laugh it up, Fuzzballs.
172 episodes. I'm like, what do we say?
Laugh it up, Fuzzballs.
You have spoken.
No, we have spoken.
I know that, but they're the winners.
Okay.
So they have spoken.
All right. Bye.
See ya.